Greetings and welcome to the Epic Truth Channel. So glad to have you here for part 2 of the United States Pluto Return. Okay, so what we're looking at now is the birth chart of the United States. And I'm using the Sibley birth data. That's probably the most common chart used for the United States. It's July 4th, 1776 at 5:10 p.m. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so what we're looking at in this presentation is the Pluto return. So here's Pluto in the natal chart. And you can see Pluto's at 1 degree Capricorn, 0 minutes. And so that's what we'll be using as we work through the Pluto return. So just reviewing a little bit from part 1, Pluto, so it takes 248 years to complete a cycle. And so that means that Pluto, if you looked at transits, it's moving around through the zodiac and through the different houses, and it comes around and it comes around, and it has trines and squares and oppositions. We're not going to be looking at those today, but it comes back to its original natal or birth position every 248 years. And so that's what we're looking at here, is that the transit is the same as the natal position. Okay, so now we're going to look at the United States forecast for the Pluto return, years 2022 through the year 2027, about a plus or minus 4 degree orb. So in 2022, we had the Ukraine-Russia conflict turned military. There were threats of nuclear war or, nuclear targets, bridges and power plants and things like that. Limited nuclear strikes. Even the threat of international escalation started to be, talked about. So that continues to become more and more of a nuclear threat. I'm not saying it necessarily will happen, but I'm just saying the threat appears to be increasing. The good part of 2022 was gold, oil, gold mining increased in value. So they did very, very well in that year. And those things, they come out of the ground. So Pluto rules money that's hidden or buried deep within. So that's why it controls gold, oil, and gold mining values. And the virus variants continued on. Pluto's about it rules viruses, so there's a theme of that in this transit as well. In 2023, Ukraine and Russia conflict escalated. You saw the mass migration of Eastern Europeans out of mostly Ukraine, but other areas there in that region. And as the conflict escalates, more and more people migrate out of that region. And we're approaching the transit peak, so we're going to expect larger trigger events. So I would think if there was going to be a nuclear attack or war of some kind, the likely time for that is late 2023, and we'll get into 2024 and 2025 here in a minute. But that's probably the most likely period because those are the peak periods for this transit. It's right in the middle of the Pluto return transit. The escalation continues in the war, so that threat is still there. If they could come to a peace agreement, that would be great, and we could avoid all that, avoid the negative aspects of Pluto. Gold and oil and gold mining continue to increase in value. So that's a good thing. Possible issues around virus side effects. It's going to be kind of a constant theme. You'll have things coming out about, things that happened from 2020 and also currently, we could have new threats occur. So, it's going to be there through this Pluto return. But also people relied more on alternative sources of information and they became a little more independent thinking in 2023 when they've had time to review things and, you know, things going on in the world. And, you know, they're looking at different ways to live and work. Okay, so now we're moving into the peak time of the Pluto return transit, years 2024 and 2025. Things will start really ramping up at the end of 2023, but you'll really feel the full effects of the transit in 2024 and 2025. And so, you know, more likely larger trigger events will happen. And, you know, overall, this is going to cause a large-scale restructuring of society in different ways. And mass migration, I mean, we're already seeing a lot of migration in and out of the country. A lot of people are leaving, and there's a lot of people coming in. And I would expect the trend of both of those to continue. Because as things become more unstable and, you know, we go through the difficult time of the peak, a lot of people will migrate out. But then that also creates an opportunity for people to migrate in. So, you know, you're seeing a change in the composition of the United States when that happens. It is the highest probability for the use of nuclear weapons in war. Like I said earlier, I hope they could come to some kind of peace agreement or at least limited use type agreement where we can avoid that. But it's possible during this time. This is probably the most possible time for that, if it's going to happen. Expect peak gold prices. So, you know, if you're thinking about gold, you know, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice. Everything I say in my videos is just for information and educational purposes. What you do with it is your own, you know, business, and only you know what's right for you. So I do have to say that here. And there's also a disclaimer at the bottom of my video in the description box. So if you would like to read that, I'd suggest you do that as well. But this is when I would expect gold prices to peak, is in these years. You know, and there's other peaks at other times, but I'm just saying this is a good time for a peak in gold. You could also have new virus variants or threats around or long-term effects. You know, it's just, I think the whole virus thing is going to be around for a while. There's a lot of questions coming up, and, you know, things are just unsettled. And I also feel like there's new threats out there. England's had some threats lately. This is recorded in the summer of 2023. So they're thinking about lockdowns again in the United Kingdom. So, you know, it just, you keep having these threats, and sometimes they kind of subside, and sometimes they turn into something, you know, bigger. So we just have to keep an eye on that. But it is possible in a Pluto conjunction like this to have, just during the transit, issues with viruses. 2026 and 2027, all the factors, you know, that we've talked about and effects will continue to transform the nation. So we're talking about the United States here. And so by 2027, you're talking about major restructuring of the country. And you'll really notice a lot of changes. If you look back and you go, wow, you know, in 2027, you'll be thinking, wow, has this country changed? You know, it's just all the changes. And that's what Pluto does. It transforms, and it turns it into something new. So, you know, people have to make those adjustments and transition to the new conditions of society. And, you know, as these changes are required, then, you know, society has to transform with it. You know, you can't really control the karma of the United States. It is what it is. And for that matter, any other country. And but you can control you can control your actions, and keep moving forward, working for the good and positive evolution of your soul as well as humanity. And if you do that, you're going to be positioned in the best position possible, and the universe is going to be there to support you. And so if you need to know something, the universe will let you know. If you keep yourself centered and working for the good and positive evolution, you can't lose with that. So I guess that's the takeaway in the end. And again, I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I look forward to next time. Thank you all. Bye-bye.